Hey guys, it's Sam for Digital Meet again, and the tutorial that I was going to make actually was the one that you voted for on the Digital Meet website. I put a poll up there and a choice of tutorials, and the tutorial that won was the tutorial about the Parent Constraint Tag. So I was going to do that, and the way I thought I'd do that tutorial is by making a robot arm and showing you how you can constrain an object to a parent by passing it between maybe two robot arms. But then I thought, well, I might as well do a tutorial on how to make the robot arm with a simple IK rig involved in it. So I thought I'd go about that first and then do the parent constraint tag tutorial afterwards. So this tutorial, I'm just going to model a simple robot arm with an IK rig. So let's get cracking. So I'm going to need to actually build the arm first. So we're going to need some kind of base. So let's start with the cylinder and try and keep this as simple as possible. So let's make the height 10 centimeters. Let's get a floor in there as well. I'm just going to use a plane. I'm going to rename this floor. And I'm going to make it quite big, I think. Let's make it 3000 by 5000. That should do us. And let's just make a material and call this floor. Keep it nice and simple. And we'll make the color of this just a pure white. Then that helps us see what we're doing. Change my display mode to ground shading lines so we can see what's going on. Now this is intersecting with the floor, this cylinder, and we know that it's 10 centimeters high, so let's move this up by 5 centimeters, and that should now be resting on the floor, which is what we want. Let's see, the size of this should be, well, we got it 50 there. Can we make that 100? So what would that be? No, let's leave that at 50. That was fine. Okay. So that will do for our base for the time being. In fact, no, that will do fine. Let's make a color for the. Let's just call this robot arm, and let's go to the reflectance channel. I'm going to remove the default specular because it's awful. Add a GGX, choose the layer for now as a dielectric just to give it a little bit of color, and we'll make it a red, something like that. Add that to the base. There we go. And I'm also going to make this cylinder editable, and then go into the point mode and select all the points, right click, optimize, and weld. And that's mainly because for some reason Cinema 4D doesn't weld the caps. When you make a cylinder editable, these points aren't welded. Okay, so now that's done, we can press UL to go into loop mode and select edges. Select this edge, right click, choose bevel. I'm just going to bevel this slightly, and then we're going to up the subdivision a couple of times just to smooth it out a little bit, and then that's our base complete. So I'm going to actually going to rename this base. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sphere, and I'm going to make the radius of this 10, and I'm going to move it up. In fact, I'm going to make the sphere a child of the base and zero it out, and then move it up by 5. So now you can see that it actually sits right in the middle of where it intersects. So I'm just going to go into our side view here, and you can see that it's sat right in the middle now. So that's great. I'm also going to copy this by holding Control and then drag this material out. So we got 2 copies of it. Go into this and change this color to something a bit darker, something like that, and then assign that to this sphere. Okay, so I'm not going to bother renaming that. That's fine as it is. It's not really that important. And then I'm going to create a cylinder. So now we have a cylinder here. And I want this to kind of intersect with our sphere. So I'm just going to go into this side view here, go to object and pull its radius down. So you can see that the radius, I'm going to make something like 8. Come on. Yeah, I think that'll do us fine. And I'm going to make the height of this, let's say 80. And that's fine as well. Let's go back into that view. So I actually want this to be sat kind of, well, I suppose halfway between, well, I want the base of this actually to sit here on the base line. So really I need to move the pivot of our cylinder object. So if I just move that there. So I really want this down the bottom here. So I could just select this and, oh, I can't do that because I've got to make it editable. So I can actually do that. But I think what you can do is go into Mesh, Axis Center, and then on the Y direction, move this all the way down to -100 and execute. And of course it won't do it because it's not an editable object. So I've got to make this editable first. Then go into Mesh, Axis Center, Y, execute, and then you can see this moves all the way down to the bottom there, which is exactly what we want. And now we just need to move this down to the middle of our sphere here. So the easy way to do that is just make this cylinder a child of the sphere, and then zero out its Y position, and voila. So I'm going to give this a red color as well. There we go. And then I'm going to copy this sphere, so control drag, get rid of the cylinder because I don't need that, make that a child of the cylinder, and then go into our side view again, and then drag this sphere up. So now we've got kind of like a joint there. And that looks like it should be at 80, which is fine. Yeah, brilliant. And then I'm going to copy that out again and grab our cylinder and make it a child of the sphere. And now we've got this extra, oh, what's going on here? It's because I've got that on still. If I pull this up now, you can see that we want that to be in the center of this second sphere. So we can actually zero that out again, and that will sit nicely on there because that's where our pivot point is. And for the top, again, I'm going to grab the sphere, get rid of the cylinder, make this sphere a child of the cylinder, go into our side view and drag this up. And as you can see, this should sit around 80. Now you're probably thinking, well, that one was 80, so how can that be 80? Because it's obviously double the distance, and it's because of the parent-child relationship. So it's 80 centimeters up in relationship to its parent, and that's why it works like that. So now we've got that there. And what I'm actually going to do with this cylinder, if we go into our side view, I'm going to make this editable. I'm also going to go to our select tool and hold down and choose rectangle selection, and then choose points. So if I select all these, you think, yeah, great. But as you can see, it got everything, so that's fine. But what I usually like to do, I don't think it'll work in this view actually. If I do it like this, you probably see that it went all the way through, that's good. But what I like to do just to make sure is in this select tool, I select tolerance selection just to make sure it gets everything that we want. So select all that, delete. So now we've got this kind of deal going on. Oh, okay. Come back here. Sorry, there we go. So now we are going to need something else. So what I'm going to do again is pull this out. So I've got the cylinder, delete the sphere, put the cylinder as a child of that, go back into our object mode, and we can move this up again. And in this view, can we zero this out? I think we can this time. Yeah, there we go. So it sits perfect on here. Now I'm going to start modeling sort of like our grabber on the end. So I'm going to go into point mode. I'm going to grab all these and move them down like so. And then let's think. Yeah, that'll do for now. I'm going to grab just the object in general and go to our scale tool. And then I'm going to grab this axis and just scale it all out like this. So it's just scaling on the Z and X by selecting that. So let's get some context. Let's have a look. That's probably a little bit too big, maybe. Something like that, that'll do. I'm going to select all of these polys on top there. And I think I might just move them down just to... Oh, there you go. You can see that's an example of the cap not being welded to the rest of the cylinder. So I'm going to go into the point mode, Control A, right click, optimize, and just optimize all the points. Now all these points should be welded now, so when I go back into poly mode, these are already selected. There you go, and that's better. So, okay, yeah. Something like that, maybe a little bigger actually. Maybe it was okay the way it was. But now, now these are all selected, I'm going to right click and extrude inner. So I'm just going to pull these in slightly like that. Right click again and then not bevel, extrude and extrude down. And then I'm going to extrude inner again. And then I'm going to extrude up. And then I'm going to right click, extrude inner. Something like that, and then just extrude back down again. So now we've got something like this. And I'm just going to treat that like a little sucker on the end of the whole deal there. Okay, so let's try and make the end of this a little bit more beautiful, I suppose. I'm going to go into edge mode, and then I'm going to press UL, so we're in loop mode. And I'm going to select this outer loop here, and this inner one, so I've got to hold shift, and then click this loop so we can add to our selection. I'm going to do that all the way in, on the top of these, and then I'm going to select bevel, and I'm just going to bevel these slightly, just to make it a little bit more smoother. That'll do. And then I'm also going to UL again. So we've got our loop mode. Select this one here and bevel. I'm going to make quite an extreme bevel. There we go. And then I'm going to UL again and select this one, just so we've got it a bit more smoother, and bevel that. There we go. And just to make this a bit more interesting, I'm going to drag out this black material again, and I'm just going to call this robot detail. And the colour really doesn't matter too much. The luminance though, I'm going to change it to this kind of blue. Leave the reflection on, that'll be fine, so it's like a neon colour. And then what I'm going to do is UL again, so we're in loop mode, but I'm going to choose polygon selection this time. So I'm going to choose this. I'm also going to choose that. Yeah, and then we're going to drag this onto these polys, and that will give us this kind of blue selection. And I'm also going to UL and select this loop and this loop, and then just drag the black onto it, just so it gives it a little bit of, you know, something. Okay, and that's largely it. I mean, it's certainly not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. This is purely so I can show you the parent constraint tag, really. But, you know, it'll work for our purposes. So what I'm going to do now is, okay, we're going to need the object that we're going to be moving. So we've got this. I'm going to bring this right down to 10. Maybe bigger actually, 20. Yep, 20 will do. And then obviously in the coordinate tab, we're going to need to move it up by 10. So it sits on the floor, 20 even, sorry. So it sits on the floor. And we'll just move that out of the way here. Okay. So I'm going to make another material for this. So I'm going to drag out this black robot material again and just call this ball. And the reflectance is fine, and in the color I'm going to, in the texture, I'm going to add a gradient. Going to the gradient, let's move this out of the way for a minute and get our ball in view. I'm going to drag this material onto our ball. I'm going to change this from 2DU to 2DV. So that should be a gradient from bottom to top, black to white. So I'm going to change this, the interpolation, to none. So now we get this really harsh edge, as you can see, going from top to bottom. So I'm going to rip this off and I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to give this a color. So let's just make this a nice blue ball. There we go. A nice blue color. And okay, yeah, so that's fine. I'm going to control drag this blue one to here. So we've got this stripe, and then control drag this black one to here. So now we're just getting this sort of like, oh, no, I didn't want to do that. I wanted the blue one. So now we just sort of got some banding, and it helps us to see the orientation of the ball when we move it as well. So okay, now onto the IK rig. So the base itself, we're not actually going to move the base. I mean, if you wanted to move this robot, that's one thing, but we're not. We want the arm to move in an IK chain, so we don't actually have to include the base in this because, well, there's no point really. So what I'm going to do is, well, actually, I'm just going to try the IK rig normally. So I'm going to choose this joint at the bottom, so this cylinder, this sphere, and then I'm going to control click the end cylinder, which is the, oh, excuse me, where is it? The cylinder. So, okay, so yeah, let's name this. So this is the actual grabber bit at the end. So I'm going to call this grabber. Grabber. Let's call it grabber 1 because I'm going to probably make 2 of these robots. And we'll call the base robot 1. Just so we're nice and clear. Okay. So now I'm going to choose this sphere. Shift click the grabber at the end. Control click the grabber at the end. And then I'm going to go up to character, commands, create IK chain. So as you can see on the sphere, it creates this IK expression tag. And it also creates this grabber goal. So at the top, you can see this grabber goal. So that's how we move our robot. So if I grab this grabber 1 goal and move it, oh look, this is the kind of thing we get. But as you can see, our joint is bending the wrong way. And that's because we need to have a, so if I just undo those movements, we need to have a, if I select this pole vector, and you can add a pole. Now the way that you can inform the pole before you even rig the robot, so if I control Z back out so this until this tag disappears, what we can actually do to help inform the IK tag is actually bend the robot slightly in the way that we want it to be, and that informs the IK tag when it gets attached. So what I'm going to do is grab this bottom sphere. We did grab that, didn't we? And then I'm going to rotate it forward slightly, like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one as well. So you can see the whole point of this child-parent relationship. This is actually called an FK. So by moving this, it moves all the children underneath it, kind of all this lot up top there. So, okay, and then I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to bend this forward slightly as well. You can see that intersection there. That's pretty, isn't it? Okay, so maybe just ever so slightly. Okay, so that should actually help inform what we want to do. So again, I'm going to grab the sphere, I'm going to grab the grabber control, click, go up to character, commands, create IK chain. We can fold all that up now and grab our grabber goal and grab this, and it's working as we would expect. And so now we could animate towards our ball here. Let's just change that so we can, there we go, we've got some better control now. But yeah, now we can start setting this up so, you know, we can animate it over. So that is our rig. That's great. So what I'll probably do is duplicate this robot so we can, you know, pass the ball from this one to the other one. A very simple IK rig, but it does the job in terms of what we need it for. Seems to be working okay. Let's take off this display so we can see what's going on. Let's make it look a little bit more beautiful in our viewport actually. And so if we actually go to options and then SSAO, we can get some AO going on in the viewport. And actually if we go to options and then configure and go to enhanced OpenGL, you've got SSAO here. We can drop that down and say that the samples we want to be 32, so double, just so you know, you can see here it smooths it out a little bit more. I'm also going to filter out our grid as well. Where are you, grid? Yeah, okay, so we haven't got those lines on. It might actually be good to maybe put some lighting in here. I suppose it's not really important for this tutorial, but yeah, so there's our rig setup, and what I might do actually is put a bend on the floor so it's more like a studio, sort of bend the back up here. But I should have that all sorted out for the next tutorial, which is the Parent Constraint Tag. So that was just a nice easy way of setting up an IK robot arm. Okay, like I said, so yeah, look forward to the next tutorial, which is the Parent Constraint Tag. As always, check out my website, digitalmeet.uk. It's there that you'll be able to actually vote on up and coming tutorials. So basically I'll put up a list of upcoming tutorials and you can go there and vote. You need to be a Digital Meet member. It's free to sign up. Just make an account on the web page and you'll be able to comment, vote, shop in the store, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, make sure you check it out. Okay guys, cheers for listening. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.